The artifact sat in the middle of Diplomatic Officer Torven's desk, humming with a frequency that made his secondary mandibles ache. It was roughly the size of a Krell meditation stone, covered in symbols that predated most galactic civilizations by at least 40,000 years. Dead language, dead culture, dead everything. Except, apparently, it was not quite as dead as everyone had assumed. So let me get this absolutely straight, Torven said, clicking his mandibles in what his human colleagues had informed him was roughly equivalent to pinching the bridge of one's nose. You are telling me that this object, this relic from a species that went extinct before my ancestors figured out fire, just spoke. And not only did it speak, but it said a name, a very specific, very human name. The name of our new liaison officer. Junior Technician Brell shifted uncomfortably, her optical stalks drooping. Yes, sir, Lieutenant Marcus Flynn. 3 times actually. Once we powered it on, twice after we tried to shut it down. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Torven leaned back in his chair, which groaned under his bulk. Nothing about this mission could possibly be straightforward, could it? No. We get the simple assignment. Go to the abandoned sector, document the ruins, file the paperwork, maybe enjoy some nice atmospheric readings. But no. Instead, we find an artifact that apparently has opinions about our crew roster. Brell's stalks perked up slightly. To be fair, sir, we did not anticipate finding anything functional. The predecessors vanished approximately 43,000 years ago. The statistical likelihood of operational technology was less than 0.001%. And yet here we are. Torven gestured at the still humming artifact with one of his 4 arms. Tell me something, Brell. In all your academic training, in all those university courses, on xenoarchaeology and ancient civilizations, did anyone ever mention the predecessors having contact with humans, species that only achieved faster than light travel 200 years ago? No, sir. Right. Because that would be chronologically impossible. Humans were still figuring out agriculture when the predecessors went extinct. They were nowhere near anything except very primitive tools and possibly discovering that fire was useful for things other than accidentally burning down their settlements. The artifact pulsed. Marcus Flynn, it said again, in perfect galactic standard, though the voice sounded like it was being filtered through layers of static and the echo of dying stars. Torven's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation.
Oh, wonderful!
Chit. It has decided to join the conversation. Perhaps next it will offer us beverage recommendations. Should I summon Lieutenant Flynn, sir? Brell asked. No, absolutely not. The last thing I need is to bring a human into this situation before I have any idea what we are dealing with. Humans have a talent for making complicated situations exponentially worse through what they call curiosity, and what I call a systematic disregard for reasonable safety protocols. The artifact specifically requested him. The artifact can wait. It has been waiting for 43,000 years. Another hour will not kill it. Torven paused. It cannot die, can it? Being a machine. Brell's optical stalks swiveled in the gesture equivalent to a shrug. Unknown, sir. We are in unprecedented territory. Marvelous. Torven activated his comm unit. This is Diplomatic Officer Torven to Senior Analyst Kira. I need a complete background check on Lieutenant Marcus Flynn. Everything. Family history. Genetic markers. Psychological profile. Breakfast preferences. I want to know if there is anything, and I mean anything, unusual about him. Understood, sir, came the reply. May I ask why? Because a 43,000-year-old artifact just said his name, and I would very much like to know how that is possible before I have to explain this situation to Command, who will undoubtedly assume I have been sampling the medical bay's recreational substances. He closed the connection and stared at the artifact. It stared back, or at least gave the impression of staring, despite having no visible sensory organs. Marcus Flynn, it repeated, almost cheerfully. Yes, we heard you the first 17 times, Torven muttered. You want Marcus Flynn? Everyone wants Marcus Flynn, apparently. The man has been on this ship for exactly 6 days, and already ancient technology is requesting him personally. Do you have any idea how much paperwork this is going to generate? The artifact did not respond to that. It simply continued its low humming. 20 minutes later, Senior Analyst Kira appeared at Torven's door, looking as confused as a being with fur-covered features could manage. "Sir, I have completed the background check on Lieutenant Flynn. And he is by all measurements, completely ordinary. Average human genetics, standard education, decent service record, nothing exceptional. Born on Earth in a region they call New England, to parents who were both educators. No unusual genetic markers, no strange anomalies in his family tree. The most interesting thing about him is that he apparently has a hobby of collecting ancient music recordings." Torven's mandibles clicked. "Music recordings?" "Yes, sir. Specifically something humans call jazz, from their 20th century. So what you are telling me is that there is absolutely nothing about Lieutenant Marcus Flynn that would explain why a predecessor artifact is repeatedly speaking his name." "Correct, sir." "Outstanding. This day just keeps improving." Torven stood, all four arms gesturing in frustration. "Fine, bring him here. Let us see what happens when the ancient technology meets its requested human. Perhaps it will explain itself. Perhaps it will simply continue saying his name until we all lose our minds. Either way, we are not making progress sitting here." Lieutenant Marcus Flynn arrived 12 minutes later, looking exactly as unremarkable as his file suggested. He was of average height for a human, with brown hair, brown eyes, and the kind of face that would blend into any crowd. His uniform was properly maintained, his posture correct but not rigid. "You wanted to see me, sir?" Flynn asked, his voice carrying the slight accent that Torven had learned indicated Earth's northeastern region. "Lieutenant Flynn, allow me to be direct. We have discovered an artifact from the Predecessor civilization. This artifact, which has been inactive for approximately 43,000 years, became active when we applied power to it. Upon activation it began speaking. Specifically, it began speaking your name." Flynn blinked. "I'm sorry, sir. Did you say it spoke my name?" "Multiple times," with concerning enthusiasm. That's impossible. The predecessors died out thousands of years before humans even existed as a species." "Yes, Lieutenant, we are all quite aware of the chronological impossibility of this situation. Reality, however, appears to have different opinions about what qualifies as impossible." Torven gestured toward the artifact. "Would you mind approaching it? Perhaps it will deign to explain itself if you are present." Flynn moved forward slowly, his eyes fixed on the humming object. As he drew closer, the artifact's hum increased in pitch and intensity. The symbols on its surface began to glow with a soft blue light. "Marcus Flynn," it said, and this time the voice was clearer, less distorted. "Descendant verified. Genetic markers confirmed. Authorization acknowledged." Flynn stopped walking. "Descendant? Descendant of what?" The artifact pulsed, and suddenly the air above it shimmered. A holographic display materialized, showing what appeared to be a star map. But it was unlike any star map in the current galactic databases. The constellations were wrong. The positions of stars were different. "This is the galaxy as it existed 43,000 years ago," the artifact said, "when the predecessors walked among stars, and humanity existed as a protected species under the Treaty of Preserved Worlds." Torven's mandibles went completely still. Protected species? Treaty? What treaty? The predecessors designated 17 species as protected. Species showing potential for galactic citizenship, but requiring time to develop without interference. Humanity was designated Protected Species 7. Monitoring stations were established in their solar system. Genetic markers were introduced into select populations to ensure future identification. Flynn's face had gone pale. "You're saying the predecessors? You're saying they tampered with human evolution?" "Not tampered, protected, guided, ensured survival through the species' most vulnerable developmental periods. The Treaty of Preserved Worlds prohibited any contact, any interference beyond subtle environmental adjustments. Humanity was meant to develop naturally, but with safeguards." "Why?" Torven demanded. Why protect primitive species? Because the predecessors understood what others do not. Potential is not measured in current capability, it is measured in capacity for growth. Humanity possessed something rare, something worth preserving. The holographic display shifted, showing images of ancient Earth, humans in primitive settlements. Then the images began to change, showing the same humans facing various extinction-level events. Asteroid impacts, climate catastrophes, disease outbreaks. And in each scenario, subtle interventions, a nudge to a magnetic field here, a altered weather pattern there. Nothing obvious, nothing that would be noticed. You saved us, Flynn said quietly. Multiple times. 17 times, to be precise. Humanity came within years of extinction 17 separate times during the protected period. Each time, adjustments were made. Each time the species survived. The genetic markers ensure that when humanity finally achieved space travel, when they finally joined the galactic community, they could be identified. They could be welcomed properly. Torven felt something cold settle in his digestive tract. The predecessors are extinct. The treaty cannot still be in effect. The treaty exists until all protected species either achieve full galactic citizenship or face extinction. Humanity has achieved faster than light travel. They have established diplomatic relations with multiple species. The protection period has ended. Recognition period has begun. Recognition of what? Flynn asked. The artifact's glow intensified. Recognition of humanity's true place in galactic affairs. Recognition of the debt owed to the predecessors. Recognition of why humanity was protected while others were allowed to fail. The predecessors saw in humanity what they saw in themselves, the capacity for rapid evolution, the ability to adapt to any circumstance, the willingness to sacrifice for the collective while maintaining individual identity. Traits rare in the galaxy. Traits worth preserving. So what happens now? Torven asked, though he was not entirely sure he wanted to know the answer. Now, Marcus Flynn, descendant of protected species 7, bearer of the genetic markers established 43,000 years ago, now you are brought into the final secret, the reason humanity was protected, the reason the predecessors established the Treaty of Preserved Worlds in the first place. The holographic display changed again, showing a region of space that Torven did not recognize. Dark, empty, cold, because the predecessors knew they were dying. They knew their time was ending, and they needed to ensure that someone would be ready to face what killed them, ready to succeed where they failed. The image zoomed in, revealing something moving in the darkness, something vast, something terrible, ready to face the others. The artifact said, "And they are coming." The hologram disappeared. The artifact's glow faded. The room fell silent except for the sound of Torven's breathing, which had become rapid and shallow. Flynn stood perfectly still, staring at the now dormant artifact. "So," Torven said finally, his voice barely steady, "does anyone else feel like our simple documentation mission just became significantly more complicated?" Nobody answered. The silence in Torven's office stretched for exactly 47 seconds. He knew because he counted every single one of them while his brain attempted to process what the artifact had just revealed. 47 seconds of perfect quiet, during which Lieutenant Marcus Flynn stood frozen like a statue, and Junior Technician Brell's optical stalks had retracted so far into her head that Torven briefly worried they might not come back out. Then everyone started talking at once. "Sir, we need to contact command immediately," Brell said, her voice climbing several octaves. "This is beyond our authorization level. This is beyond anyone's authorization level. This is the kind of information that requires Fleet Admiral involvement at minimum." Wait, hold on," Flynn said, holding up both hands. "Can we back up for a second? Did that thing just say something is coming to kill us? Something that killed a civilization so advanced they were manipulating human evolution from across the galaxy?" Torven's mandibles were clicking so rapidly, they sounded like malfunctioning percussion instruments. "Everyone be quiet, please. I am begging you. Let me think for precisely 30 seconds without additional catastrophic information being introduced." He closed all 4 eyes and tried to breathe. Diplomatic training had prepared him for many scenarios. First contact situations, cultural misunderstandings, trade negotiations gone wrong. Even the occasional low-level military skirmish. Nobody, absolutely nobody, had covered ancient artifacts revealing that humanity was part of some 40,000-year-old protection program designed to create defenders against mysterious galaxy-destroying threats. Okay, Torven said, opening his eyes. Okay, here is what we are going to do. Grell, you are going to very carefully document everything that just happened. Every word the artifact said. Every image it showed. I want timestamps, I want analysis. I want everything formatted in a way that will not make me look completely insane when I send this report up the chain of command. Yes, sir. Lieutenant Flynn, you are going to sit down before you fall down, because you look like you are approximately 30 seconds away from fainting, and I do not have time to fill out the medical incident paperwork. Flynn sat. This is insane. This has to be some kind of mistake. I'm nobody. I'm a liaison officer who processes trade agreements and cultural exchange documents. I collect old music recordings, and my idea of excitement is finding a rare pressing of Miles Davis. I am not. I am definitely not. The genetic descendant of some ancient protection program designed to fight galaxy-ending threats. And yet, Torven said, gesturing at the artifact with one arm while using another to activate his communication panel, here we are. The universe has a sense of humor, Lieutenant. A terrible, terrible sense of humor. The communication panel chimed. Senior Analyst Kira's face appeared on the screen, looking even more confused than before. Sir, I have been monitoring the security feeds from your office. Did I correctly understand that the artifact just claimed humanity is part of a predecessor protection program? You understood correctly, yes. And that something called the Others killed the predecessors, and is now coming back. Also correct. Sir, with all due respect, that is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard, and I once had to mediate a dispute between 2 species arguing over whether a particular shade of purple was sacred or just very nice to look at. Kira, I am going to need you to do something for me. Yes, sir. I need you to access the restricted xenoarchaeological databases. The ones that require Fleet Admiral clearance. The ones that contain all the suppressed findings and unexplained phenomena that various exploration teams have encountered over the last century. Kira's expression shifted from confusion to concern. Sir, accessing those files without proper authorization is a career-ending offense. Yes. And if what this artifact just told us is true, then careers are going to be the least of our concerns. I need you to search for any references to protected species, genetic markers, extinction-level threats, or anything called the Others. Cross-reference with predecessor civilization data. I need to know if anyone else has found evidence of this before. That could take hours, sir. Then you should probably start immediately. The screen went dark. Torven turned back to Flynn, who had his head in his hands. Lieutenant, I need you to be honest with me. Have you ever experienced anything unusual, strange dreams, unexplained abilities, moments where you knew something you should not have known? Flynn looked up, his expression caught between laughter and panic. You're asking me if I have superpowers. You're actually asking me if I have superpowers. I am asking if there is any evidence that these genetic markers the artifact mentioned actually do anything beyond make ancient technology recognize you. No, nothing. I'm completely normal. I get sick like everyone else. I'm not particularly strong or fast. I failed my advanced physics course twice. The most unusual thing about me is that I can wiggle my ears, which is apparently something only some humans can do, but I'm pretty sure that's not a predecessor genetic modification. The artifact suddenly hummed back to life, making everyone jump. Incorrect, it said. The modifications are not physical, they are cognitive. Pattern recognition enhanced by 400%. Adaptive problem solving increased by 600%. Capacity for rapid strategic thinking increased by 700%. These modifications do not manifest as obvious superhuman abilities. They manifest as an inexplicable tendency to be in the right place at the right time. to make correct decisions based on insufficient data, to survive situations that should result in death. Flynn stared at the artifact. That's just called being lucky. No species is that lucky, Lieutenant. Not consistently. Examine your service record. How many times have you made decisions that seemed irrational at the time but proved correct later? How many times have you avoided danger through what you attributed to coincidence? Torven pulled up Flynn's service record on his display. He had reviewed it earlier, but now he read more carefully. The pattern was subtle, but it was there. Flynn had been part of 7 different away missions over his career. Each one had encountered unexpected complications. Each one should have resulted in casualties. None of them had. Station Gamma 15, Torven read aloud. Structural failure during your inspection tour. You evacuated your team 60 seconds before a critical support beam collapsed. Report says you noticed unusual vibrations. How did you know to look for vibrations? Flynn frowned. I don't know. It just felt wrong. The whole station felt wrong. Trade negotiations on Vecla Prime. You refused to use the primary conference room at the last minute. Insisted on moving to a secondary location. 3 hours later, an atmospheric regulator failed in the primary room, flooding it with toxic gas. Everyone would have died. Why did you move the meeting? The room smelled weird. The Vecla breathe methane. Everything smells weird to humans on their stations. I don't know, okay? Flynn's voice rose. I get feelings sometimes. Hunches. Everyone gets hunches. Not everyone's hunches save lives 7 times out of 7 encounters, Brel said quietly. She had been reviewing the service record as well. Lieutenant, the statistical probability of your survival rate across these encounters is approximately 1 in 43 million. Those are not hunches. That is something else. The artifact pulsed. The modifications are working as designed. Humanity was given the tools to survive, to adapt, to face threats that would destroy other species. This is why you were protected. This is why the predecessors invested 43,000 years of monitoring into your species. But why? Torven demanded. Why humanity specifically? What makes humans special compared to the thousands of other developing species in the galaxy? Because humans are comfortable with chaos. Most species seek order, predictability, stability. They build societies that resist change. The predecessors were the same. It made them strong, but it also made them rigid. When the others came, when everything the predecessors understood about reality proved wrong, they could not adapt quickly enough. They needed a species that thrived in uncertainty, a species that treated the impossible as merely another problem to solve. You keep saying the others, Flynn said. What are they? The artifact's hum dropped to a lower frequency. When it spoke again, the voice sounded almost sad. The predecessors never understood what the others were. Not truly. They came from outside. Outside normal space. Outside normal time. Outside normal causality. They did not follow the rules of this universe. They did not want resources or territory or power. They simply erased civilizations, stars, entire sectors of space, gone, as if they had never existed. The predecessors fought for 6,000 years. They threw every technology, every weapon, every strategy against the others. Nothing worked, because the others were not playing the same game. They were playing by rules the predecessors could not comprehend. So the predecessors lost, Torven said. The predecessors made a choice. They could not win, but they could delay. They used their remaining resources to create barriers, spatial distortions that would slow the others' advance. Buy time, time for the protected species to develop, time for someone else to find a solution the predecessors could not. And you think humans can fight these things? Flynn asked. We've had FTL travel for 200 years. The predecessors had it for millennia before they fell. What possible chance do we have? The predecessors thought in terms of technology, of weapons and shields and force. Humans think differently. You have a phrase. If the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. The predecessors had hammers. Very sophisticated hammers. But the others were not nails. So what are they? Brel asked. Unknown. That is the answer. That is always the answer. With the others, they are unknown. Unknowable. The question is not what they are. The question is whether humanity can find a way to survive them despite not understanding them. Because that is what humans do. You survived ice ages without understanding climate. You survived diseases without understanding microbiology. You survived wars without understanding psychology. You face the unknown and you adapt. That is your gift. That is why you were chosen. Torven's communication panel chimed again. Kira's face reappeared, and she looked shaken. Sir, you need to see this. I found something in the restricted databases. Multiple exploration teams have reported spatial anomalies over the last 30 years. Regions of space where sensors stop working. Where ships disappear. Where entire colonies go silent. The reports are scattered, dismissed as equipment malfunctions or natural phenomena. But when I map them chronologically, they show a pattern. What kind of pattern? Torven asked, though part of him already knew the answer. They're getting closer. The anomalies started at the Galactic Rim, in the same region the predecessors abandoned 43,000 years ago. They've been moving inward, slowly, steadily. At current rate of expansion, they'll reach the core worlds in approximately 18 years. The office fell silent again. Well, Flynn said finally, his voice carrying a slightly hysterical edge. Well, that's just great, that's fantastic. I came to this ship to process trade agreements, maybe attend some cultural exchange dinners, possibly try some interesting alien food. Instead, I'm apparently genetically modified to fight incomprehensible space horrors that destroyed a civilization so advanced they were basically gods, and I have less than 2 decades to figure out how to do it. Does anyone else think this is a really bad joke? Anyone? Lieutenant, Torven said carefully. I need you to not have a breakdown right now. You can have a breakdown later. I will personally authorize whatever recreational substances you require. But right now, I need you functional, because apparently, you are the closest thing we have to an expert on impossible situations. Flynn laughed. It was not a happy sound. I'm not an expert. I just get lucky. Then let us hope your luck holds, Torven said, because we are going to need all of it and more. Brel, compile everything, the artifact said, everything Kira found, everything in Flynn's service record. I am sending this directly to Fleet Command with a priority alpha classification. Someone with more authority and better pay than me can decide what to do next. And what about the artifact? Brel asked. We're keeping it. And Lieutenant Flynn is not leaving this ship until someone much smarter than me figures out what we're supposed to do with him. No offense, Lieutenant. None taken, sir. I don't particularly want to leave anyway. The farther I can stay from whatever is coming, the better. The artifact hummed one more time. Distance will not help. The others are patient. The barriers the predecessors created are failing. Time is shorter than you believe. Marcus Flynn, descendant of protected species 7, you must prepare. All of humanity must prepare. The galaxy must prepare, because ready or not, understood or not, the others are coming, and this time, there are no predecessors to delay them. The artifact went silent, and did not speak again despite all attempts to reactivate it over the following hours. Torven sent his report to Fleet Command, knowing that his career was either about to end spectacularly, or become far more complicated than any diplomatic officer's job should be. Lieutenant Marcus Flynn sat in his quarters, listening to an ancient recording of John Coltrane, wondering how his life had gone from pleasantly boring to potentially galaxy-saving in the span of a single afternoon. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, in the regions where sensors failed and ships disappeared, something moved, something that did not belong. Something that had been patient for 43,000 years. The others were coming. And ready or not, humanity would have to face them.